Alphablock Long Vowel Overanalysis 3. Mine. I see the Long Vowel episode as a celebration of the character traits that make each vowel unique. So in order to understand mine, you have to understand I. Pre-Series 5, I is generally seen as a massive jerk. She's arrogant and demanding. She calls us the most important, the most incredible, and the most interesting. But honestly, she's not as bad as people make her out to be. Sure, she's a self-centered alphablock, but her meanest moments were honestly pretty justified. They were more centered in fear rather than anything genuinely malicious. In Dot, the alphablocks were incredibly incompetent in getting her Dot back. She reacted the way she did because she was likely afraid of losing the one thing that makes her, her. In the Making Friends crossover special, she was rather unkind to the number blocks. Despite what people were saying about this moment, I think given the circumstances of aliens coming to our planet, I'd say that this reaction is just as valid as an inviting one. All in all, her behavior is defensive rather than offensive. Keep that in mind. Also, she does care about the other alphablocks even if she doesn't explicitly say it. In Dot, she literally plays with O. In Name, A literally says she's as happy as a puppy that's wagging its tail when she's with her. That doesn't sound like a bad friend to me. Let's start from before the song begins. I invites the other alphablocks to her party. Notice how E glares at I when she walks in and when she interrupts him. Notice how I, for a brief second, glares at E when he enthusiastically says I will. Why is that? Well, we'll have to rewind all the way back to the first traditional episode of Alphablocks, Top. T is stuck on the mountain and the vowels must help. E takes charge. I keep saying she knows, but she doesn't really have an idea of what to do. This annoys E to the point where he starts acting quite rude to her.
I know!
You don't though, do you?
I do! I do!
You do, don't you? You?
I know! Is it my turn?
And if you look at I's expression during those scenes, you can tell that she was pretty hurt by E's behavior. E's conflict between the two blocks sums to the fact that they both had the desire to be in control of the situation. A good example is in Outlaw where I abuses her police powers. You know, the rare example of I actually having control over the situation. While they share the desire to have control, their behaviors are rooted in two separate opposite feelings.
Only I can say I'm simply the best I've found. You'll never do it, so don't even try. I don't need you others around.
In this scene, she's clearly trying to convince herself more than her friends. Just look at this.
I don't need friends. Who wants to dance? I do. I'll go first.
Just as quickly as she let them in of a party, she's pushing them out, making it clear she didn't expect anyone to want to go to her party. This is the first hint of I's self-important mask slipping. She's trying to do whatever she can to avoid vulnerability by making her friends go away. But since when did Alphablocks ever listen? G and H have already been shown to be good friends with I. I see an episode such as Typer when they were doing a circus show together. And in Fit, where I was literally coaching H. In fact, when compared to Fit, I and H play opposite roles in this episode.
We're IGH, and everything's looking bright. With IGH, you're gonna see the light. Stay right here, 'cause tonight is a party night.
The words of G and H here are words of encouragement, telling I that everything's gonna be okay by saying everything's looking bright, and telling her she doesn't have to hide by saying to stay for the party. Next, E ambushes.
Only I can say I.
You know what's interesting? I mentioned earlier examples of I being in a situation with unpredictable variables out of her control. Dot, making friends, even Top. In this episode, the way both G, H, and E have formed other teams with her was suddenly, from an angle she didn't anticipate, leaving her no room to avoid it. This is basically a form of exposure therapy for I, making her less afraid of situations she can't control the outcome of, and more importantly, forcing her to be more vulnerable by sharing her name. It also highlights that she's so concerned of herself in these moments that she's not paying attention to her surroundings. This approach was necessary, as even after the IGH scene, she was unwilling to open up.
When I'm with E, it's as easy as making a pie.
As I said before, E and I are basically the power struggle final boss of Learningblocks. However, as made clear in this episode, E and I do not necessarily hate each other. They simply conflict with each other in certain aspects. That being said, the reason that things are as easy as baking a pie with ease links back to both of their personalities. I shows a sense of pride in her abilities, but not necessarily herself. She's constantly concerned with her own worth, so she covers it up by paying herself as the best. E, however, as explained in my sleep analysis, is so confident in himself that he wholeheartedly believes he's the best in the best, and as a result, he doesn't need any validation in that area. This is why E and I have some conflict, but this key difference is what allows I to heal. E is so confident in his actions and is so well respected that I feel as if she doesn't have to worry much when he's by her side like this, hence why she feels at ease. Compared to the movements of IGH to IE, they're less stiff and significantly more energetic.
I go with E, like a clown with a trick bow tie.
Based on what I said earlier, it is safe to assume that E is the clown in this situation and I is the bow tie. Currently, E is piloting the digraph, he's currently in charge of the show, and I is sticking along for the ride. The fact that it's a trick bow tie is foreshadowing for the next line and the theme of the episode as a whole. She's hiding something secret, and we're about to find out. Also, know how when they're together, they are, in a way, meaner together. Out of all the Alphablocks, E and I have the greatest capacity for being jerks, unintentionally or otherwise. E makes I more bold, I makes he more snappy, so the meanness gets amplified in this digraph. They laugh as P gets pie thrown in her face, and they don't look the slightest bit concerned as the tie makes T fly away. They literally smile. It may also be a reference to the fact that the first conflict they ever had involved T unintentionally getting stuck in a high place. The fact that they're just looking and smiling shows that there's no bad blood here. E's just here to help. With I, that is. He's on his own now.
Cross my heart, we'd never tell a lie.
My favorite part about the scene is that this line itself is a lie. First of all, in Band Together, E literally said that everybody at this hotel gets fed and gets a bed, but that wasn't the case. A had to sleep outside. I has also lied in the past. She says she knows things when she doesn't, she lies immediately after this line, and she even lies to herself, saying that she's the most incredible, intelligent, and interesting, even when, as seen in this bombshell of a scene,
I don't need friends. I mean, nobody likes me.
She doesn't truly believe that herself. And upon learning that people like her, she is truly, genuinely excited.
Somebody likes me.
We all do. You're our friend. It's true.
Let's look back at the episode N. When I was able to pop the balloon, she was praised by the others and got really happy about it. But when N took back his words, she didn't get angry at N. Instead, she was surprised, confused, and maybe after the episode ended, she was a little sad. Compare this to E. When he was challenged by I, he got mean, passive-aggressive even. But this shows that I needs validation, and E does not, at least not in the same way. I has a desire to feel valued, E needs people to trust his competence. So if I doesn't feel valued, she gets sad. When E doesn't feel trusted, he gets frustrated. And then Magic E comes in.
And I like you too.
Notice how before he turned to Magic E, he forced I to come out of her shell, taking the lead. However, in this case, he initiates the dance. This initiation isn't something he's done in any of the Long Vowel episode, which was at the end of the day, E does respect I's space and cares about her. And look at how energetic and silly that dance is. They're in perfect sync. It really is as easy as pie. Notice how when E looks at her, she looks away. She got a bit flustered. As the dance continued, however, they both got more comfortable and the dance increased in energy as a result. She quickly gained the courage to face him.
I. And when Magic E does his magic on me, then it's time for me to shine.
E's strategy worked. She went from following E's lead to cooperating side by side to standing on her own. And now...
I'm staying alive. I will survive.
And together we'll be fine.
This right here is definitely the most oriful line in Learningblocks history. It marks the exact moment I learned she doesn't have to be alone. She doesn't have to keep her name to herself, and she doesn't have to push others away. Even if she can be a bit much, it doesn't stop her friends from caring about her regardless. And to think that E of all people is the one who was the biggest help in this episode. Despite not ever going through the same insecurities as she did, despite being I's opposite in the aspect of ego, he saw that I needed her. I put her trust in E showed I that people valued her, and all went well. There is still one thing that needs to be acknowledged. This is the only Long Vowel episode with a title word isn't spelled out in the episode. And that word is, of course, mine. But why? They could have easily said something like, and my name isn't only mine. Well, let's think about this episode and compare it to the other episodes. Name is about A forgetting her name. Sleep is about E needing rest. Home is about O going on an adventure. And Blue is you explaining how it's not his fault Alphaland got all messed up. In each of those episodes, the word is a key part of the story, either being the problem, the solution, or both. But mine is neither. The reason I tries to put Pirate by herself isn't actually because she wants to keep her name to herself. She does it because she believes she wasn't worthy of her friends and she needed to be alone. As a result, the solution wouldn't be letting others use the word I. That's like dealing with the symptom rather than the sickness. Essentially, the title in the first portion of the episode was simply the very surface of the issue. For those who don't look deep into these episodes, it will be a red herring. That just adds another layer of complexity to this already complex episode. Now, the thing you've all been waiting for me to talk about. Mine talks a lot about death. When IGH is formed, they say, you're gonna see the light. A phrase often said when someone is dying or about to die. When IE is formed, they say, cross my heart, we'd never tell a lie. Cross my heart is a shorthand for cross my heart and hope to die. And of course, when Magic E does his thing, she says, I'm staying alive, I will survive. This can be similar to the fact that in Alphaland, connection is the most valuable thing a letter can have. A place in the world is the most valuable thing a letter can have. You can see this with seeing Clap when she wonders why she's even a letter, implicitly questioning why she's even alive just because K makes the same sound as her. If I is isolated, if I isn't wanted by anyone, that is essentially death for an alphablock in a sense. That's why G, H, and E rush to help her in the first place. Alphablocks is the only learning block show to even brush death as a concept in this way.
We're IGH, we say I.
When I'm with E,
We say I.
I really like how in both mine and name, E was in a quite gentlemanly manner. It's a nice detail.
and when Magic E does his magic on me,
We say I.
They literally flow in this scene, it looks like they're ascending to the heavens. Need I say more?
Yes, you can be my friends. No word of a lie, friends. And with you by my side, we're gonna be flying high.
Basically, by the end of the episode, I finally tells the truth. And by saying flying high, they make another reference to death. That's the thing some people say when someone dies. This reflects I's old self dying and being replaced with a better version of herself. In conclusion, mine isn't an episode about I being selfish, it's about all of I's insecurities coming out at once. Her fear of not being in control manifests in her creating a party for one. Her fear of vulnerability and her friends not liking her comes in the form of her trying to keep her name to herself. All in all, you get what is among the deepest episodes in all of Learningblocks. That one was a doozy. It's a good thing that the next episode is going to be a lot lighter.
Oh!